The kinship parenting theme is distinct from other themes in that we're talking to kinship caregivers who have a pre-existing relationship with a child, and that relationship will or already has changed significantly as they've stepped into the role of becoming the child's primary caregiver. Our kinship caregivers know their roles are different from other foster or adoptive parents. It requires building unique skills, such as interacting with a child's parents who also happen to be one of their family members. This can be quite challenging to adapt to. As a facilitator, you'll reinforce that doing this well requires some of the characteristics that we highlight in this theme. We're trying to help kin caregivers be more resilient and patient, grow their self-awareness, and know that it's wise and okay to have a sense of humor. Some of the content may seem so basic to us as professionals, but I love this theme because it brings immediate relief, acknowledgement, and value to people's lives. And kinship caregivers may have never been told any or all of these things before. Now let's get into the nuts and bolts. This theme starts out with a podcast with Kathleen Assad, who adopted 4 of her nieces. She goes through some trials and tribulations of the experience, like mixed loyalties, trouble with extended family members, and concrete changes like needing a bigger car and house. Section 2 will take you through everyone's feelings about the separation from the child's parents. While this may seem obvious in foster care, kinship caregivers have often not had these thoughts and feelings acknowledged. You'll do 2 whiteboard activities. In the first, you'll ask participants to share both positive and negative feelings about becoming a caregiver. In the second, you'll ask about the child's feelings and behavioral reactions that have resulted from them coming into care to help them start talking with kids about how this is normal and the two are linked. In section 3, you're going to get very practical. You'll use the case study of Casey to make a point that children need accurate information about their parents. You'll discuss how kinship caregivers need to switch their priority from their relative to the child and start shifting their loyalty. We'll use the acronym of the word safety to talk about ways to keep visits safe, which I love because, again, it's a practical and easy way to remember if they get off track and question themselves. This section will end with another case study, this time of Josiah, a little boy whose mom, Brianna, is missing visits with him. The group will brainstorm what Grandma might be feeling, what divided loyalties there are for Josiah, and how Grandma can set limits for her daughter, his mom. Section 4 will go over new roles and necessary boundaries. This is one of the most critical points to draw out: how to recognize that everyone's role has shifted and that the kin caregiver is actually now the parent. There's a really lovely quote on this slide. It shows the important combination of being assertive but not tactless. We'll do an activity called What Would You Say to hit this home with possible responses for the group to discuss. You'll go through a series of slides. The first round is a scenario where mom shows up unannounced for a visit and provides some possible responses to mom. The next slides are around a scenario where a child complains after a visit and the grandfather needs to confront dad. You'll go through responses to both dad and the child. Again, a super practical skill set for participants and a real eye-opener. The last section of content has an activity that breaks participants up into small groups to discuss a problem they've had in their role as a kinship caregiver, to talk about how they and the child have felt about the situation they've been dealing with and how they might be more effective. Everything we're talking about is not a one and done. To really build trust with children, we need to create predictability, to build patterns, to create new ways of being with others. Because we're really trying to build self-reflection in this theme, there are 2 options for the relevance and reflection activity. You'll describe both to participants before you close, and they can choose to do one or both on their own. This reflection involves a letter writing activity that might produce some emotion for them. So it would be great if you can find time to check in with participants about it when you start the next class. Now, these check-ins are not written into the NTDC because everyone will be pairing themes in their own order, but certain activities or certain populations can really benefit from doing this. So use your judgment as a facilitator if this would be beneficial for the whole class or for specific individuals. All right, some key takeaways from this theme. We want to acknowledge that there are differences between kinship parenting and mainstream parenting, and this will be very helpful to children and parents to acknowledge. We hope participants will leave with concrete skills, specifically around boundary setting, dealing with divided loyalties, and how to have conversations about all of these things with family members and children. Especially in this theme, we want our participants to leave feeling empowered and knowing this is doable. The content is critical, but so are any relationships that might result from participants sharing with each other. This will be hugely important even long after this theme is complete, because kin caregivers often feel alone or marginalized in society. Let them connect and encourage individuals to develop relationships outside of class. Some things to be aware of as you're facilitating this theme. Your participants may share a lot more examples and stories during this theme as compared to other themes, and you may see more ahas or emotion from your participants. This is why it's a 2-hour theme, to make sure that you have room in your facilitation and space for this as the class needs. But you'll still need to be mindful of time and oversharing. There's a lot to cover in this theme. We know many of the kin will already have children in their homes and will not necessarily know other kin caregivers, so things usually become comfortable fast. Once people warm up and when the content starts to ask about personal experiences, you'll lose time quickly. Oversharing may occur as people become a little more emotional. Do your best to keep the content moving, as you'll run out of time if you spend too much time on sharing. Take time with people after class if necessary, or refer them to talk more together at another time. Acknowledge what they've said, but refer back to the content points, especially if they're oversharing. Do this sooner rather than later because it makes it relevant and helps to keep everyone on track. For example, you could say, "I appreciate how open Jim's been about his son's drug use. It can be hard on a parent, and we can't talk about this openly to everyone. But did you all hear how he really prioritized his grandchildren?" Just a few closing words of encouragement for you. As we know, our kin may feel pressured and guilty to parent kids that they weren't necessarily ready for, and they're almost always unaware it will require extra skills and support. But kinship caregiving has been in the fabric of families and communities since the beginning of time. It's gotten stigmatized in our society because it often means that the children's parents were struggling. When we can empower kinship caregivers with skills and support and destigmatize this experience for them, it can be experienced as a positive, natural, and even healing process for all.